Hi guys, welcome to my Tibia EK guide. This will be part 1, hotkey setup. I also have a few more videos planned. I have a mana management plan, I have a rotation, EK rotation video planned, and I also have an increase in your efficiency while hunting video planned. So all those are still to come. This is just part 1 about hotkeys that a lot of people have been asking me about. So we will talk about a few things. We will talk about using a gaming mouse. We will talk about WASD versus arrow keys. We will talk about separation of concerns, which is something I borrowed from computer science and applied it to Tibia. I will then talk a little bit about miscellaneous hotkeys in addition to the hotkeys I will discuss in point 3. And finally, at the end, I will show you my exact hotkey setup, which, by the way, isn't supposed to be exactly what you need to do. It's just how I've applied my rules and how it works for me. But it's just a suggestion. You definitely shouldn't be just one-to-one mapping my hotkeys. So let's jump right into it. So with regards to the gaming mouse, I very strongly recommend getting a proper gaming mouse for Tibia. It opens up so many hotkeys and it allows you to be a lot more flexible with your hotkeys. So if you don't have a gaming mouse, I really think that is the number one thing that will improve your EK gameplay. Okay, it doesn't need to be an expensive one. So I've listed 4 of the most popular ones as far as I could tell. Corsair Scimitar, that's the one I have, and I recommend it. It's absolutely perfect for Tibia. Also, Razer Nag Epic and Logitech G600 come very highly recommended. So if you have some money to spend, any of those will do excellently. However, if you're on a budget, then pretty much any MMO mouse with 12 buttons will work. And trust me, if you haven't used an MMO mouse before, it will change your Tibian life when you get used to it. Okay, it's an excellent first step in improving your EK. So second of all, WASD versus arrow keys. Now, again, this is quite similar to the gaming mouse. I understand that a lot of people have been playing Tibia for a very long time and are very used to using arrow keys. However, using WASD movement opens up so many possibilities for remapping a lot of hotkeys that you otherwise can't use as hotkeys. Buttons such as 1, 2, 3, 4, all of the buttons such as R, T, F, G, all the letters, it just makes it a lot more flexible. So, long story short, I very highly recommend to move with WASD and not arrow keys. Okay, if you've been using arrow keys your whole life, then it will take, a couple of days, maybe a week to switch over. But in the long run, it will definitely be worth it. And that's, in my opinion, the second best thing you can do for your hotkey setup. Okay, so next we move on to the separation of concerns. So as I mentioned, this is a concept borrowed from computer science. And this basically means to detach separate concerns from each other. What I mean by this is I strongly believe that you should map your key rotation offensive hotkeys for one hand. Okay, so you should be doing all of your offensive spells with one hand, and you should map all of your defensive and survival hotkeys for your second hand, right? Whatever it might be, it doesn't really matter which one's which. You just want to make sure that each hand is responsible for a different set of hotkeys, okay? This allows you to multitask a whole lot better, and it allows you to attack and survive at the same time, and it makes it a lot less likely that you will panic when you get trapped or are in some other difficult situations, okay? So the separation of concerns, okay? One hand attacking, second hand defending, okay? So on one hand, the key things that you would need in the offensive one would be Utito Tempo, Exori Gran, Exori Min, Exori, and probably Exori Mas. Those 5 spells make up your key offensive hotkeys. And in the defensive ones, you definitely want your potions, so your Supreme Health Potion or Ultimate Health Potion, your Strong Mana Potion, and your Exura, okay? So 5 offensives on one hand, the other 3 on the other hand, okay? Whatever that might be. The rest of your hotkeys, slightly less important. The hotkeys that aren't so crucial for your survival and are used a little bit less, you can mix and match. But I kind of want to talk about this in this point. So yeah, the rest of miscellaneous hotkeys. So hotkeys that don't fit exactly, being super offensive or super defensive and survival. Those you can kind of fit in depending on how how your keyboard is laid out, how many buttons you have free, etc. So this is personal opinion, personal preference. As long as you have those key rotation hotkeys on one hand and your key survival hotkeys on the other. Okay, so stuff such as throwing bombs, utility stuff such as haste, such as summoning the familiar. You can just place them wherever it's comfortable for you, as long as it doesn't affect your ability to use your key offensive and defensive hotkeys. Okay, so moving on. Just for reference, this is what my keyboard and mouse are like. So I use a drop alt keyboard. It's a very small keyboard. You will notice it has no F keys, it has no F12, and it has no numpad. Okay, so it's a very small keyboard. I basically only use the top row of the numbers there, and some of the letters. Okay, so it's not a big keyboard, and I'm only allowed to have such a small keyboard due to the fact that I have this gaming mouse, which opens up so many more hotkeys for me. Okay, so this is my mouse, and this mouse has 14 extra buttons that I use. So you will see here on the side it has 12 buttons from 1 to 12, and this is what I refer to as buttons 1 to 12 slightly later on. And it also has a couple of buttons here on the top below the scroll, and those are referred to as buttons 13 and 14 when we come to my hotkeys. Okay, just so you can visualize it. So this is my keyboard and my mouse. Okay, so let's move on, and just to finish the video, here is basically my setup between my keyboard and my mouse. So I'm not going to go through every single one one by one. It's just an example. And like I said at the start, it is not, this doesn't mean you have to have yours like this, okay? There are plenty of viable good setups that depend on your mouse and your keyboard and your comfort. But what I will mention is the separation of concerns. So if you look at my keyboard setup, my very first 5 buttons here that are the most easily accessible for me. So remember, I'm on WASD, and then I have the 5 buttons above me: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Utito, Exori Gran, Exori, Exori Min, Exori Mas, okay? Very easily accessible for my one hand. And then on the other hand, my first 3 hotkeys that I have, 1, 2, 3, which if you go back and look at my mouse, these are those 3 buttons right there, easiest to access. I have the health potion, I have Exura, and I have my mana potion. Okay, so this is this point, yeah? I have it very easy to access all of my offensive spells with one hand and all of my defensive survival stuff with the other. The rest of the hotkeys, less important, right? It's whatever, like I said, whatever is more comfortable for you, okay? And one last thing I will mention is that I don't like this 7 to 9 on my keyboard here. So at the moment I have the Prismatic Ring, Might Ring, and Stone Skin amulet there, and I don't like it. It's not optimal. I don't yet know how to fix it. I'm planning to fix it. Perhaps I will move it onto my mouse on the currently unused buttons 8 and 9. I'm not sure. Okay, but like I say, it's not super important. You can just assign the rest of the hotkeys as you like, as long as you make sure to have your key offensive and defensive abilities, spells, and potions detached from each other, so that you can use both at the same time without having the mental overload of using both with one hand, for example. Okay, so that's it. This sums up my EK Guide Part 1 hotkey setup. And I have, like I mentioned, I have a few more videos planned for my EK guides. So stay tuned, and if you enjoyed the video, please make sure to like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments if you have any comments, if you agree, disagree, or you'd like to suggest some alternative solutions. So thank you, and bye-bye.